Round 23 of the AFL season is coming up this weekend, and we're going to preview all 9 matches coming your way. We'll also have our footy tips for the weekend, as well as a look at some possible ladders for the end of the season. 9 teams into 8. How will it go? We'll have a look at it. This is the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. This is episode number 58, of the 2025 season. Round 23 AFL preview episode is here. We're going to be going through all 9 matches coming up this weekend. Hopefully find you 9 winners. Before we do that, we're going to have a little look at the run home for teams. Some predicted possibility ladders for the final 8 at the end of the season. Obviously, right now there is 9 teams, still with a very realistic chance of playing finals. Only 8 of them can. We're going to go through that and see what we expect to happen. There's a good chance that a team with 15 wins this season won't be playing finals, which would be absolutely absurd. Then we'll jump into our preview of the round 23 matchups, all 9 of them, and we'll finish the episode with our tips for this week. If you are new here, we do this podcast 2 to 3 times a week, typically 2 a week. This week and next week there is 3 episodes with AFLW kicking off. We've got an episode each week dedicated to that. Once that cools down, or once the home and away of the men's season wraps up, we'll be back to 2 episodes a week. Monday will be men's episode. Thursday will be women's episode. But for now, enjoy this. If you haven't already, go back, check out episode 57. We preview everything for the AFLW season. Without any further ado, don't forget to subscribe. We are here. This is your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about football. This is the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. Let's jump into it. I don't have any graphics, but let's run through some predicted ladders for the end of season. As we said, there is 9 teams currently still with a realistic chance of playing finals. Of those 9 teams, only 8 can. Which 8 they'll be will be interesting. Adelaide are the only team that is 100% guaranteed to be in the finals. You can pretty much lock Geelong in. They would have to lose by 100 points 2 weeks in a row and have other teams winning by 100 points. That's not going to happen. Gold Coast, you can almost lock in. They've got an extra game. And 2 of those are definite winnable games. So unless they were to lose this week and fall apart, you'd have to say they're probably going to be fine, especially because their percentage is pretty solid as well. The rest of the teams, it's all to play for. Collingwood probably safe-ish. Fremantle safe-ish, although their percentage is a concern. If they were to lose both games, they could be in trouble. It's for Collingwood, Brisbane, Fremantle. They win a game, they're safe. Every other team could still lose, miss out even with winning a game. Let's jump into some possible scenarios. First of all, the main one, if every favourite of every game for the rest of the season wins, as it stands as favourites right now, the ladder would be Adelaide, Geelong, Gold Coast, Collingwood, and then Fremantle, Brisbane, Western Bulldogs, Hawthorn at top 8 with GWS missing finals. Yes, GWS missing finals with 15 wins. Is that going to happen? I mean, favourites don't always win, so I wouldn't lock that in at any rate, but that would be crazy. Adelaide v Collingwood and Geelong v Gold Coast as the qualifying finals, Fremantle v Hawthorn, and Brisbane v Bulldogs as the elimination finals. There's important games both weekends. Pretty much any game that involves Collingwood, Fremantle, Brisbane, Bulldogs, Hawthorn, or GWS is a very important game, just because if you lose, if any of those teams lose, it just changes hugely for everyone else. Whereas the ones that involve 2 teams in the finals race obviously mean a bit more. So this weekend, Friday, Fremantle, Brisbane. Fremantle win this. They probably qualify for finals. Safe enough. They will be playing finals if they win one of their 2 games. So they win this one, they'll be safe, especially with Bulldogs in Melbourne the following week. That is huge because that will be a tough game. So if they can win this week, they'll be fine. Brisbane, travelling to the west this week, if they had to lose this one, it puts everything on their last game against Hawthorn at the Gabba. So that is massive, this one against Freo. They win that, they're safe in the finals as well. They lose, it all comes down to the final round. Saturday is the Expansion Cup, Gold Coast v GWS. Winner of that, I won't say guarantees themselves finals, but pretty much puts themselves in finals contention. Gold Coast win, they are locked in because they're going to win surely against Essendon in the final round, you'd think. So probably locks in top 4 if Gold Coast can win this one. GWS lose this, then they're going to need results to go their way elsewhere because, their finals campaign could be done if they were to lose this one. They have a bad percentage, so unless Brisbane are losing both games, they need to win at least one. They need to win probably both. So at the moment, you'd have to say GWS are probably the most likely to miss out, just about, outside of the Bulldogs. But the Bulldogs, I think, win both games. Other important games this weekend, obviously Hawthorn against Melbourne. You'd think Hawthorn would be too strong in that. Collingwood, Adelaide, Saturday night. Obviously, Adelaide win both their games. They will lock in the minor premiership. So they can really do a massive dent on that this week if they win. Collingwood need to win one game to play finals. If they lose this one, then it all comes down to Melbourne at the MCG the following week. They will want to win this one. They're still capable of finishing anywhere from probably third down to ninth. Realistically, they win one game, they're probably going to be top 4. If they lose both games, they might miss finals, depending on who else wins games and loses games, obviously. Sunday this weekend, Geelong, Sydney, kind of important, but not really. Just depends on whether Geelong can make a genuine tilt at that top spot or second. If they were to lose, they could end up dropping down to 3rd or 4th by the end of the season. So I guess that is important, whether they want to get a home qualifying final or not. And then final game of this weekend, Bulldogs, v West Coast. That's important. Obviously, Bulldogs need to win both games to play finals. They lose one, they're out. This should be the one that they easily win. The other one, maybe not so much. So that's this weekend's important games, which would lead us into the final round. And there's 10 games, obviously, in this final round this year. Thursday night, not important. Essendon, Carlton, both teams are well and truly done. Friday night, Collingwood, Melbourne. Collingwood could be playing for their spot in the finals, depending what happens against Adelaide the week before. But that will be important either way, because it certainly will have an effect on whether they, if they lose the week before, whether they play finals or not, and if they win the week before, whether they finish 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th. So important games both weeks for Collingwood. Port Adelaide, Gold Coast. If Gold Coast can win that, they will seal up a top 4 spot, you'd think. 2 wins probably will be enough for them to play top 4 football out of their 3 games. Adelaide have North Melbourne, so they should seal up their minor premiership chances there if they had beaten Collingwood the week before. Geelong have Richmond. Once again, pretty simple result, you'd think. Sydney West Coast doesn't have any bearing on the finals. GWS against St Kilda. That's at NG Stadium. GWS, if they lose to Gold Coast, will need to win this game and get luck elsewhere. Will that happen? We'll wait and see. But if they beat Gold Coast this week, that game could be one that keeps them in that hunt for the top 4, depending on other results. Probably won't make top 4, even with 2 wins, but they could get 5th or 6th, which would be a home elimination final and be huge. Bulldogs, Fremantle, biggest game of the season, just about, potentially, depending on what results have happened the previous week and up until this point. But Bulldogs will win. They probably play finals. They lose that one, they're obviously done. Fremantle, they win this, they will be top 4, provided they won the week before. They lose this one, they could drop down. Probably not out of finals, depending on what happened the week before with their game and other teams. And then the next game is also another important one. Sunday Night Football. This will be a cracking game. Brisbane Hawthorn up at the Gabba. If Brisbane lose this weekend coming to Fremantle, Hawthorn could knock them out of the finals race at the Gabba, which would be huge. Otherwise, depending on what else has happened, Brisbane could be knocking Hawthorn out of the finals. If GWS have won both their games, Bulldogs have won both their games, and now Brisbane win this one, and Hawthorn could be the team that's eliminated. So plenty of variety of chances of teams dropping out. And then we finish up on the Wednesday with Gold Coast Essendon, which will probably be Gold Coast playing for third or fourth on the ladder, potentially, maybe. Could just be them not playing for any position, in all honesty, because they might be already in third and locked into third unless they get copper flogging, basically. Depending on percentages and stuff and other results, but you'd think they're going to finish top four. So that basically leaves us in a situation where you can lock Adelaide, Geelong. I think you can lock Gold Coast into finals football just based on the fact that they've got that extra game and should win certainly 2 of their games. Whereas everyone else is fighting for their lives. I think the most likely ones to miss finals are probably GWS Bulldogs, if Bulldogs slip up. Otherwise, it's GWS Hawthorn, Bulldogs Brisbane are probably your 4 most likely teams to miss finals this year. What order that is, I don't know. I think Bulldogs will be too good for Fremantle at Marvel Stadium on that final game, which would suggest that it's going to be Hawthorn or GWS as your team that misses out, depending on how the games go. If GWS lose to Gold Coast this week, they could be in trouble. If GWS beat Gold Coast this week, then all of a sudden Hawthorn's the one in trouble, maybe, as is Brisbane. So, I don't know. There's a lot to play for. Brisbane certainly need to win at least one of their games, as does pretty much most teams. But, yeah, that's basically the long and the short of it. There's a lot of interesting games of football to come. A lot of different variety of results. We'll know a lot more even by the end of Saturday this weekend. Obviously, with those big games on Friday night, we'll learn a bit. Fremantle, Brisbane, and then Saturday, Gold Coast, GWS, and Adelaide, Collingwood will show us a lot as well. So we'll know a bit more by Saturday, but we still won't have that final picture right up until potentially the final game of the year, but most likely we'll have a pretty good understanding of what's the finals is basically going to look like by Sunday of that final round. So big couple of weeks coming up. Let's jump into the games coming up this weekend. We'll go through them one by one. Probably less in detail than sometimes we do. I'm trying to adjust how these episodes go, but this is Friday night. Friday night footy. No Thursday night football this round as the AFLW kicks off. At time of recording, we're about an hour away from the start of the AFLW season, so I'm looking forward to that. But round 23 kicks off Friday night. There's 2 games. The first one is Essendon, St Kilda. This will be at Marvel Stadium. Has no bearing on finals, this one, but will have a bearing on final positions for the season. You'd have to think, based on what we've seen recent weeks, St Kilda should be the favourites for this one. They've certainly had the better season, second half of the season. They've had some rough periods this year, but they've certainly looked okay recently. Their recent form's pretty solid. They've won their last 3 games. They're probably going to win this one, so they'll be on a 4-game winning streak in all likelihood. Their wins haven't been convincing. That come from behind miracle win against Melbourne 3 weeks ago. They beat Kangaroos only by 9 points 2 weeks ago, and then Richmond by 4 points last week. So it hasn't been overly impressive, but the 2 wins ahead of Essendon, who are really struggling of recent times. A lot to do with injuries, but they haven't been terrible. They put up a solid fight, but they injuries and whatever other reasons have just curtailed their season completely. They're always a little bit off the pace of the better teams you thought, but it'd be interesting this matchup if Essendon were at full fitness, but I mean, that's not football, is it? You can see the All Aussie Rules rating system there. That uses a variety of numbers to come up with our predicted result. As you can see, St Kilda by 17 points is the expected result on those numbers. you'd have to say that's pretty fair based on recent form for both teams, but also the head-to-head record's pretty even, 5-5. Offensively and defensively so far this year, St Kilda actually rate better than Essendon, so I find it hard to see the Bombers winning based on what we've seen from them over the recent probably 2 months. It's been a while since the Bombers have won a game. I don't think St Kilda are great based on what we've seen recently, but I think they should be strong enough to win this game. We'll see how it plays out, but that's how I think it will be. Our other game on Friday night is Fremantle Brisbane at Optus Stadium. As we've already mentioned, this game is an important one. This one is obviously over in the West at Optus Stadium and has a lot riding on it. Fremantle lose both games and all of a sudden, who knows what could happen. Same for Brisbane, lose both games, who knows what could happen. Both of these teams play, obviously, each other this week and then play another finals contending team the following week. So 2 tough matchups for both of these teams coming up. All to play for still. Either team wins one game and they pretty much sort themselves out for a September ticket. So one of these teams probably qualifies for finals this weekend. Which one will it be? Who knows? Who knows? Fremantle probably, you'd think, will be going into this as favourites, even though the All Aussie Rules rating system actually has Brisbane on top. That's because Brisbane have travelled pretty well this season, and their recent form's been pretty good. I know Fremantle have a lot of winning form, but a lot of it has been coming from behind late. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out this weekend. Last time these two teams met was all the way back in round 1 of last season, which was over in the West, and Fremantle won that by 23 points. If you remember back to that point, Brisbane were really struggling before turning it around later in the season. Last time, or the time before that, sorry, was played at also over in the West, and the Lions won that one by 3 points. So I don't think travelling across the country is going to be the issue here. It's going to be about form. Fremantle certainly have the better recent form. They've won their last 5 or 6 or whatever it is. They've won like 11 out of 12 or something ridiculous. So their form is outstanding after a slow start to the season. Brisbane's form's been a little bit scattered of recent. 3 weeks ago, losing to Gold Coast quite convincingly. Then went to Melbourne and beat Collingwood in a really good performance. Before last week, losing at home to Sydney by 2 points. They have to win one game to guarantee finals. They either need to beat Fremantle this week or they need to beat Hawthorn the following week. So a lot to play for the Lions. I think I trust Brisbane. I don't know, actually, who I trust more out of this game. It's going to be one that I think goes right down to the wire. It's going to be a very important game. I guarantee a lot more people are going to be tuning into this one than the other game on Friday night. It should be a good game. Hopefully it's a good game. Obviously, Fifey's announced his retirement at the season's end, so it's going to be interesting to see how Freo play for him over the next few weeks. Brisbane, obviously, we know they're good. We know they can play big pressure games. They won the premiership last year, so certainly wouldn't be writing them off in this game or the season. That's Friday football. We move into Saturday football. Next up, we have Gold Coast v GWS Giants. It's the Expansion Cup, and this game is going to be huge. Massive ramifications, especially for the GWS Giants in this one. They have a really good head-to-head record with the Gold Coast Suns, winning 9 of the last 10. The only one going the way of Gold Coast was round 17, 2021, which Gold Coast won by a point. So it's been a while between drinks for the Suns against the Giants. They are the predicted winner on the rating system at All Aussie Rules, though. 5 points is the expected result, which would be huge if they were to win this one. Gives them a really, really good crack at top 4, and guarantees finals, of course. GWS would be in a little bit of trouble if they lost this one. It would put it all down to that final game needing to win that and maybe get some luck depending on what happens with the Bulldogs and Hawthorn over the couple weeks as well. So big couple games coming up for the Giants. They need to win at least one to have any chance of playing finals. If they were to win both, though, it would be massive. So they can win this one and really set themselves up. They lose it, they might be in trouble. I think number-wise, it's going to be a really good game. They've had some cracking matchups. The matchup earlier this season was really close. I think on paper at the moment, you'd have to say Gold Coast probably look in the better form. They've won their last three, whereas 2 weeks ago, GWS looked quite poor when they lost to Bulldogs. We write that one off. We forget about it. It was a Thursday night game. But going forward, do we hope to see better from them here? I think we expect better from them than that. It's going to be an interesting game. There's no doubt about it. Massive ramifications for both teams in this Saturday afternoon game. It's certainly one that you should tune in and watch, in my opinion. Next up, the Saturday afternoon game is Marvel Stadium, Carlton versus Port Adelaide. Neither team have any hopes of finals football. Carlton will be starting favourites in this. The All Aussie Rules rating system has them winning this one by 9 points. It's not going to be the most exciting game of football this weekend. It's not one that most people will probably watch. I think both teams' best is still pretty good. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of their worst from both of these teams, especially over recent weeks. Head-to-head record, Port Adelaide have a pretty good record, winning the last 2, 7 of the last 10 against the Blues, including a 50-point win only 6-7 weeks ago in round 16. So, on paper, a lot of things look all right here for Port Adelaide. They haven't played Marvel well this year, to be honest, so that doesn't help them. They did manage to beat Carlton last year in Melbourne, so that helps them, I think. Both teams' recent form is pretty shocking. Both of them only one win from their last 5. Port Adelaide's was against West Coast 5 weeks ago. Carlton's was against Melbourne 4 weeks ago. So neither team looking great. They have been both playing against finals teams since their last win, though. All 4 of their losses for both teams in the last 5 weeks have been against teams currently in the top 9. So you can kind of, I guess, forgive them as that's where they're kind of at. They're not top 9 teams. They're teams that are in the bottom 10, bottom 9 teams. That's just where both of these teams are this year. And in all honesty, one of them is probably going to win this game unless it's a draw. I don't know who deserves it more. Probably neither. I think Port Adelaide were pretty solid last week against Fremantle, but at the same time, so were Carlton against Gold Coast. So it's a game that probably just for the fact that it's at home, we're going to be looking at Carlton, but I would not be surprised to see either team win this game of football. We move on to Saturday evening game. This one's the 4:15 kickoff, and it's going to be Hawthorn Melbourne. This one will be at the MCG. Another game that has quite a bit to play for. There's no doubt about that. Hawthorn obviously win both games. They play finals, lose both games, miss finals, win one, lose one. Who knows? This is the one that you would expect them to win. They're coming off a really good performance last week. Melbourne haven't been terrible this year. They're a team that certainly I think is better than where they're sitting at the moment. But in all honesty, they shouldn't compete too well, you wouldn't think, with Hawthorn. The rating system has Hawthorn by 27. I think that's probably reasonably fair margin. Hawthorn have a pretty good record overall against Melbourne. Well, not overall, sorry. Last game they met earlier this year, round 9, they beat them by 30 points. Other than that, it's all Melbourne, winning 8 of the previous 9, with the other game being a draw back in 2021. But that's all history now. I think Hawthorn should win on paper. Doesn't mean they will win. Both teams aren't in terrible form. Hawthorn 3-2 over the last 5 weeks. Obviously, last week was outstanding against Collingwood. Melbourne, on the other hand, they've won 2 of their last 5. Unfortunately for them, their losses have been bad ones. Other than last week, their 2 other losses, St Kilda when they were 46 points up at one point, and Carlton the week before are both bad losses. Last week was a really solid performance against the Bulldogs. They nearly actually beat them. So if they can replicate that, maybe they can compete in this game against Hawthorn. They have Collingwood the following week, so maybe they can cause chaos in finals the next 2 weeks. But yeah, as it stands, you'd have to think Hawthorn on 14 wins for the season will be too strong for Melbourne in this game. I wouldn't be absolutely convinced of that, but I would be reasonably confident that they should be able to better Melbourne based on what we've seen. Yeah, that's pretty much that game. We'll move to Saturday night game, and it's top of the ladder Adelaide versus the falling away Collingwood Magpies. This is at Adelaide Oval, and this will be an interesting game. Adelaide obviously will be starting massive favourites. Collingwood's form has been really, really quite average over recent weeks. They've only won one of their last 5 games, which was against Richmond. Their 4 losses, Gold Coast, Fremantle, Brisbane, Hawthorn, and last week was really bad when they got smacked. Adelaide, 16 wins, 5 losses. They've won their last 5. Granted, probably been a lot easier run than Collingwood's, but they have beat Bulldogs, Gold Coast and Hawthorn in that run. So their run's been really good. Their form's great. I mean, they weren't spectacular last week against West Coast, but they got the job done, and that's all they needed to do. The interesting part of this matchup is the head-to-head record between these two teams. Collingwood have won the last 10, dating back to round 4, 2018. They are absolutely got the wood on Adelaide, but a lot of them tight games. Last time they met earlier this year, it was Collingwood by 10. Last year, it was Collingwood by 4. 2023, it was Collingwood by 2 points and 1 point in their 2 meetings. 2022, it was 5 points and 42 points. So a lot of tight games recently between these two teams, but Collingwood have just managed to get out on top each time. It's going to run out eventually and turn around and the other team will win. And this is probably that point, you'd have to think. At the same time, Collingwood also have a really, really good record at the Adelaide Oval. They've won their last 10. Granted, 3 of those have been gather round games against Victorian or non-Adelaide based teams, but they still have a really good record at Adelaide Oval. So I don't think they'll be too worried about going there. It's just a matter of whether Collingwood can actually turn their form around, because they have not been playing great football over recent weeks. I think the main issue has been their attack. Their ability to turn turnovers into goal scoring opportunities has really dropped away recent weeks. So I think that's the main thing here. Adelaide have to start favourites. All Aussie Rules rating system has them winning by 4 goals here. I wouldn't be surprised to see it be even more, depending on what Collingwood turns up. I'm hopeful that we'll get a much better performance from Collingwood this week, but we'll see how that plays out come this weekend on Saturday night. Moving along to Sunday football, we head down to Hobart and for the first game, and it's North Melbourne Richmond, a game that doesn't mean a whole heap in terms of finals, but it will matter where these two teams finish. The winner basically will finish 16th. The loser probably finishes 17th. All Aussie Rules rating system has North 16 points ahead of Richmond. I think North's best is certainly better than Richmond's best. Unfortunately for North Melbourne, we see a lot of their worst. Week in, week out, we see a lot of their worst. There's no doubt about it. It's just how it is. These two teams met earlier this year. North Melbourne got home by 4 points in a tight finish. Last year they met late in the season. North won it by 13 points. That was at Marvel Stadium, though. Down in Hobart, you'd have to think helps North Melbourne. They played really well down there against Brisbane earlier this year. I think this is their last game down in Hobart as well. So it'll be interesting to see if they can go out on a positive note. Recent form of both teams. North haven't won in a while. Their last 5 games have all been losses. Melbourne, Sydney, Geelong, St Kilda and GWS in that 5-week stretch. On the other side of the fence, Richmond won 2 in a row against Essendon and then West Coast before losing to Collingwood, Gold Coast and St Kilda, but put up a really good fight last week against St Kilda. I expect this to be a close game. I don't think either team will be dominating it. I think North have the potential to be better at the moment, but at the same time, they also have the potential to be worse. I think North will be too strong down in Hobart. That's basically the long and the short of it. I don't know. It's not going to be a game that's watched by millions, let's be honest. I don't think too many people outside of North and Tiger fans will be too interested in this game, but we'll see how it goes. I think North should be too strong, though. They've won the last couple matchups between these two teams. The next one is an important game for Geelong. It's Sydney v Geelong at the SCG. This is Geelong's toughest matchup in their last 5-week stretch. Pretty plain and simple. They will start favourites, Geelong. I don't think it'll be a dominant win. Sydney are playing pretty good football of recent form. All Aussie Rules rating system has Geelong by about 4 goals. They've won their last 4 games all quite comfortably. 5 weeks ago, lost to GWS. Since then, they've beat St Kilda, North Melbourne, Port Adelaide, Essendon. This is against Sydney, and then their final game is a pretty easy matchup as well. I think it's West Coast, so they're looking to finish really strong, probably end up on 17 wins for the season and second on the ladder. On the other side of the fence, Sydney have finally got their form going. They've won 4 of their last 5. Only one of them against a competing team, which is Brisbane last week by 2 points up at the Gabba. But they have beat Essendon, North and St Kilda. So they're beating the teams they should be beating. They're playing pretty solid against the top teams. So for that reason, I think this might be one where they compete pretty well. Interestingly, obviously, Brodie Grundy is out, who's probably been their best player across the length of the season. He's out with concussion. But this is probably not the worst game to be losing a ruckman because Geelong don't have that dominant ruckman. So maybe that will be a blessing in disguise. Who knows? Overall, though, you have to think Geelong too strong. But at the same time, I'm never surprised if Sydney win because they still have a lot of class. Like Isaac Heaney is an absolute gun. Goulden's a gun. Chad Warner's a gun. So they still have a lot of talent on this list and they can beat any team on their day, is basically what I think of Sydney. Will this be their day? Maybe, maybe not. They don't have a whole heap to play for. They're pretty much locked into 10th spot on the ladder. They can't go up. They can't go down. They're going to finish 10th. So whether that means they play good or bad, I don't know. It means it doesn't matter whether they win or lose because draft picks aren't going to change for them. So maybe they win, keep winning. I don't know. But it I think on paper looks like an okay matchup. It would have been nice if Sydney had won maybe an extra game or 2 throughout the season and still had a chance. But as it is, they're just out of it. So that is how it is. That leaves us with one game on Sunday evening, and it's Bulldogs West Coast at Marvel Stadium. This is not going to be pretty, you wouldn't think. West Coast did play all right last week. This is going to be a whole lot tougher. Western Bulldogs have won 5 of the last 6 between these two teams, going back until the 29, like that's since 2020, when West Coast have been really poor since that point, really. West Coast, last time these two teams met was round 3 last year, and Bulldogs won it by 76 points. Bulldogs are a team that can absolutely destroy an opposition, and you'd think that this could be one of those. They're projected winners by 81 points on the rating system. Bulldogs have won their last 3 games. 2 of them massive wins against Essendon and GWS. Last week, not their best performance, but they did get the win over Melbourne. If they had lost that would have been just about finals out. So they have to win both games. Their percentage is that good that if they do win both games, they only need one other team to slip up and they go in. West Coast, up until last week, they'd been playing quite bad football. Last week, they were really good against the top of the ladder, Adelaide. So you can't completely write them off here. They playing free will. Like, they guaranteed to finish wooden spoon. So make of that what you will. But I think just from what we can see, you'd expect the Bulldogs to win this one quite comfortably, I think. It's hard to see a world where the West Coast Eagles of 2025 can genuinely compete with a team of the Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium. They pretty much just dominate every stat across the board in this one to the Bulldogs. We'll jump into our tips, and this is how we've got them. St Kilda by 25 on Friday night against the Bombers. Dockers by 3 points in a very tight and important game Friday night against the Lions. Make sure you watch that one. That is probably game of the round. Then the other big one, I've got Giants to knock off the Gold Coast Suns, which would almost qualify GWS for finals. So that will be a big one. Blues, too good at Marvel Stadium for Port Adelaide, but I don't think that will be high-quality football. Hawthorn by 46 over Melbourne. I think Hawthorn's form at the moment is just too good to look away from. Adelaide Crows should be too strong for Collingwood, who are really struggling at the moment, by 30 points. Kangaroos by 4 points over the Richmond Tigers in another tight game. Cats by 12 points over Sydney, who put up a solid fight, I think, on Sunday. And Bulldogs too strong for the Eagles. Got them by 70 points. That is our 9 tips for this weekend. Don't forget to like, comment, and definitely hit that follow or subscribe button depending what platform you are on. This podcast goes live twice every single week. This week and next week it goes 3 times. Don't forget we've got AFLW content everywhere all the time, as well as AFL Men's. Go hit up the socials. We post every single day just about on all of them. TikTok, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, you name it, we got it. We put all the best content out there. I hope you enjoy your weekend. Hope your team wins. And we'll be back on Monday to review all 9 matches. This is the All Aussie Rules podcast. We'll catch you next time.